All right, dude, let's get ready here. I got something for you guys, or actually Justin has something for you guys today.
That's right.
It's a anti-rotational series that we're gonna do for you guys.
Yeah, so what we want to do with this and accomplish is we want to get to the prerequisites to rotation. So first we need to mimic and strengthen the core's actual function, which is to stabilize the spine.
Well, let's talk about why this is so important. Something happens to us, and it typically happens somewhere between, 15 and 20 years old, depending on how far you go in sports, if you'd even played sports. What happens is we stop moving in the transverse plane. We stop with rotational movements. And this is really important if you're weightlifting and you're older than 15, 20 years old, because what ends up happening, this is where injuries occur because people don't have the rotational strength they need to support themselves through basic movements like squatting and lunging, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you see how your body gets a little bit shaky and imbalanced doing anything in a split stance, especially, which we're going to address with this series as well. But what we want to accomplish with this is how do we manage these external forces? So what we're going to do is we're going to create external forces with a rubber band for instructional purposes here. But later in the series we'll go ahead and use other things like the cable and landmine. But this is just going to be the start to the series as far as like, what do we start with? What's the prerequisite to this?
So the idea here too is I'm going to do the exercises. Justin's going to walk you through the things that I'm focusing on while I'm doing these movements. And then afterwards, we'll prescribe you guys exactly how to implement this into your workout at the end of this video. So make sure you guys stay tuned all the way to the end. We'll maybe give you guys a prescription on exactly how to implement this into your workouts.
Okay, so let's go ahead and just start with the first thing that you want to get going with our anti-rotation. So let's go ahead and start. Let's take the exercise here. We're going to start with our pals. So we're going to walk it out into enough resistance to where you feel like you can manage. So what we want to do is extend our arms. And what Adam's going to focus on now is maintaining this nice upright posture. But we're going to brace. We're going to really brace the hips, especially because the hips are going to want to rotate naturally towards that resistance that's pulling him towards the squat rack. Also his shoulders as well. So as he maintains this position about 30 seconds or so, this is where we're going to start as sort of the foundational movement to this exercise. Okay, so now from there, he's going to go ahead and transition down into a kneeling position. Okay, so he's going to walk out, get nice added resistance with this. He's going to extend. So what's important too is he's starting in close to the chest, so he has nice control. And now he's extending, maintaining control. I want to make sure that he's extending his hips the whole time, engaging his glutes. So everything is nice and upright. And again, he is feeling his way through this with his obliques, his transverse abdominals, really maintaining support and keeping him in place. Okay, so there's the second exercise to this. Now we're gonna go ahead and walk it out again, but a little bit further. He's going to go ahead and now add some reps to this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to extend, we're going to squat. So he's going to squat it down to nice depth while maintaining support. Okay, so these external forces he's going to feel right away. He's going to make sure that everything stays as straightforward as possible and fight that with his core. So there's really no way that he's not going to get his core activated in this movement, and that's the point. Okay, so after he goes through his squats, now we're going to go ahead with a more challenging exercise. So this is why we have the yellow rubber band here, because maintaining this is a bit more challenging and difficult in a split stance. So he's going to go ahead and extend his arms, and then he's going to step one foot out. Good. And then he's going to come back up into position. So just make sure when he steps back, he takes that second to kind of gather himself and stay under control. The whole purpose of these exercises is to maintain stability and control. So using exercises like this to focus more on what the intent is. The intent is to fight this rotation that's naturally going to want to occur towards the pulling force. So there you go. That's our four exercises that we're going to help to address this problem. So
Now, where would you use movements like this? Would this be a workout itself? Would it be something you prime your workout, mobility days? How would you do this?
So for me, I love to use these as a priming exercise. So priming meaning I want to teach my body to do something specific before I get into like some of our regular lifts, like a backloaded squat or a lunge. So you're going to notice that by doing that, you're already teaching your core to stabilize and brace against those forces. So when I now just take myself into that same position, I'm going to have a lot more support and control.
Okay, so priming this before I go into like a squat day, a leg day, anything like that, lower body exercises, I definitely want to do this. How long am I holding each one of those, or how many repetitions am I doing?
Okay, so a good way to kind of start and regress, or just kind of begin with this, is to add holds. So a lot like when you add a hold for a plank, we're going to start the progression of like 30 seconds to a minute. So just holding and sustaining that against those forces. And you can increase your intensity by adding, a thicker band, if that's something that's pretty
But I highly recommend that you start with a really thin band at first, just because it's not about how hard you're doing here. It's more about getting connected to these muscles that are going to help you stabilize throughout the entire movement, correct?
Correct.
And then so each one of the movements that we did, so we did the first one where we extended the arms just in a stationary position. You're going to hold that static for about 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
After you hold for 30 seconds, then you move to the next movement.
Right.
So our next movement, we were down in the kneeling position.
The kneeling, same progression, or same amount of time there, 30 seconds to a minute. And then we're going to get into reps of squats. So we can do anywhere from, 10 to 15 squats. And then we're going to go into the same 10 to 15 lunges with that as well.
Now, since we're priming here, we're not trying to fatigue you before you go into an exercise. So would you recommend that I do one of the movements and then go to an exercise, or should I do each one of those consecutively and then go to the exercise?
I would probably do them all consecutively. Okay. So that way, what I'm doing is I'm going through different variations of movement, but with control. And so these are teaching exercises. This is not like really necessarily part of the fatiguing process towards the workout. You want to do this. So repetitions are a bit arbitrary numbers wise. You're going to want to feel your way through it and really use it as a way to teach your body to connect to these movements going into your workout.
So there you go. Take the 4 movements we just showed you. You're going to hold them for 30 seconds each. A little bit of rest in between if you need to. Do it consecutively before you go into your squat, your deadlift, your lunge, any of your lower body exercises. Even some of your upper body exercises will benefit from these movements. Anything like an overhead press where you have to stabilize the core for sure. So 4 exercises, 30 seconds each before you go into your main movement. You can use this for any workout routine. Highly recommend adding these into your guys' routine.